Hello, this is Christian Gonzalez with the Brew Podcast. I am so excited to share this part of myself with all of you. I know it's been quite a journey for me the past 2 months. I have worked really hard to try to figure out how all this works. It's been quite a journey. I am very excited. I am scared and nervous because I really don't know how this is going to come out. I am not one to record sound or video, but it is something that I am thrilled about. And this was just taking an opportunity to be able to introduce myself and who I am, a little bit about myself, and also kind of talk about the podcast and be able to kind of share what the podcast is going to be about and everything in between. So this is kind of like an introduction to get to know me, to get to know the podcast. And really in the end of it, you know, I really expect that, it's going to be a good project. I do say that it is a passion project of mine because I have really done so much research. I really never knew anything about sound, audio, other than just whipping out my phone and taking a picture or video, anything like that. And, within the past 2 to 3 months, I used three different search engines to figure out how does the sound go in the microphone, how to translate it into the laptop, how it, how will it sound, how will it come out, things like that. And in that process, it's been great because, thank goodness we live in a time now where we have all this information at our fingertips and we can actually research this information and actually produce a project. So I just, so it's just been that kind of journey. So I'm really excited about it. I'm thrilled. And also, this idea came from that in the past maybe 3 months or so, I started to listen to podcasts, and I wasn't really a podcast person. I wasn't really, I wasn't really into that. I was mostly into kind of audiobooks. And I just started pressing on one and listening to the host, and when they would have a person on and they were interviewing them. And for me, I loved it because it was the host was interviewing someone else. And, they were just asking questions, and it was a nice back and forth. And, a lot of times some of the podcasts were really funny, some of them were just kind of really out there. And I really loved that interaction because, really deep down, I love, watching interviews between people, and that's one of my big things, and and I love that. And I really got into that, and I was just kind of, it kind of brought me into that world, and I was just so fascinated by it. So then, at that point, I was just like, well, how can, I mean, this seems like something that I can do, because one of the things that I really am the type of person that you just have to have the personality to draw people to you. And especially when you're interviewing people, if you work somewhere or if you have anything in relation to that, you really have to have that personality to draw people to you because people feel more safe with you. People feel that they can open up with you. And I always look back when I was a kid, and it was one of those situations where I would always have everyone come up to me and say, I have to tell you a secret. I have to tell you this. I have to tell you that. Can you keep a secret? And I have a trunk full of secrets that people have told me throughout the years. And I really realized that it wasn't just that people were just trying to be gossipy. It wasn't anything like that. It was that people trusted me with their secrets. They trusted me with their life pretty much. And and for me that was just so amazing because I just never thought of myself that way. I'm always the type of person that's the listener. I always like to listen to someone else. Uh, and for me, that meant a lot. And one of the things that I took note of with myself is that I am the type of person that I also am the same way too. If I'm having a conversation with someone, I want to be able to trust that person to, if I'm saying things to you that I wouldn't say to anyone else, that you wouldn't take the initiative to be like, I'm just going to go take this and take this somewhere else. We do know that that happens. People do it regardless. People, you can trust people and they'll still do that. But for me, in the end of the day, that's how people saw me. They trusted me. And those were things that I held close to my heart because that is a trust that, a trust and a bond that you don't always get. So then as I'm looking through all of this and, I'm just kind of analyzing it all, I said, I can kind of be that person. I can interview someone and have someone across from me and have a conversation with them, and I love talking and I love being part of the conversation, and love just the back and forth and the laughter and everything in relation to that. So for me, I looked at it as that's kind of like my thing, and I think I'd be good at that. So I really did not go around and I didn't say, "Hey, listen, do you think I'd be good at this? Do you think that, like I didn't do that. Like I just kind of knew that I would be good at it because I felt like if I went around and told and asked 10 to 20 people, "Do you really think I'd be good at this?" They'd probably have different opinions, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. But for me in this project, I felt like this is something that was close to me, that I wanted to do, that I felt that it was important to me, and it was something that I want to give a try. I can't predict the future. I can't predict that I'll always do it. I can't predict that it'll come out right. I can't predict anything. I just have to do it and just keep going with it, and the hopes that it winds up good. And so that's kind of where my thought process was, was with everything. And so yeah, so fast forward, and for me, when it comes to projects in general, I am always of the mindset that if something has your name attached to it, if I'm producing all of this and it has my name attached to it, and this goes like with anything really, like a position you hold at your job, or this, or a project that you're working on and you're responsible for it. If it has your name, you're responsible for the content, you're responsible for how it comes out, you're responsible for everything attached to it. And if I'm going to be part of a project, whether that is at work or doing this or anything, and it has my name on it, that I am responsible in making sure that it happens, then it's for me to make sure that I'm going to do the best I can to make that project and elevate it off the ground. And that is where that comes from, because you have to kind of look at it that way. Even though this may be, it's a podcast, and you're just whatever it is right now. For me, it's just a podcast. But if it has your name on it and you're responsible for it, you have to take that leap and being able to make sure that you did the best you could to the best of your ability in making sure that everything that you do is is good. And because it falls on you, it just falls on your head. So that's another reason why for me the research was so important. That was a big deal. And can I sit here and say I figured it all out? No, I haven't. Clearly I'm recording from my cell phone. I had to get a microphone so the sound goes to the cell phone, and then there's a microphone for the computer to record it. So I can't say I figured it all out. I can't say that it's good product. I can't say that it'll come out. I just can't. Like, I have to let myself just go with it, start out with it, see where it goes, and fine. If it does go somewhere, great. If not, it's okay. I've had worse things happen. But I also want to say too that this for me is a whole new world. Right now, I'm sitting here in my living room and I am looking at a camera that's recording me, that I have to edit the video and then push it out so other people can see it, because it's more so recording a video, because since it's a podcast, you're recording the video with the audio, so you're kind of just burning the candle at both ends. But as a kid, I would never, I was antisocial. So I was really to myself as a kid. Like I never, if anyone told me, if anyone put a camera in front of me and said you're going to be speaking, it would not happen. And it was one of those things where I really, I just, I didn't, I really had an issue at school when I was a kid, and I was just antisocial. I just didn't want to be around anyone, and I was bullied a lot as a kid, so that made it hard. I had a stutter as a kid as well, so it made it really hard for me to pronounce words or form sentences, because I struggled a lot with that. And coming from all of that, that leaked into as I went out of from being a kid and then into a teenager, it still stayed with me. And it wasn't until I got my first job, as I worked at a hotel for 9 years, and it was my first job, and I was kind of thrusted into that world where I had to figure out how to socialize, because the job I had was really, I had to be interacting with people. I had to, really put myself out there, and I was just in my shell, and it was just such a scary situation to have to be in when you yourself are just not like that. You would never think that of yourself. So when I fast forward and I think of just all the jobs I've had and the things that I've done and the places that I've gone, one way or another, I had to, as part of my job, I had to stand up and talk to people, and 30 to 40 to 50 people sometimes with a microphone, and I had to be up there and explain what I'm showing and things like that. And I'll never forget, because there were a few people, who came up and said, "Oh, you do such a great job. You're excellent at what you do." And then I would tell them, that story, being a kid and, not having a voice and being bullied and antisocial and things like that. And they would look at me and say, "I would never know that you ever had an issue like that, because it just does not show." And when they tell me that, I just blink, because I say to myself, you know what? That's a lot of improvement for myself. I've gotten so much better with just me talking and me expressing myself, and just really just having a voice for it, right? So fast forward from that, here we are today, and this is going to be something where you know I record it, and it's going to be put out in the universe, and someone out there will listen to it eventually. If not, it's okay. But I approach this project with that in mind, because I think that we live in a society where people are looking for fame and fortune, and wanting to be noticed, and wanting to just be known, and everything like that. And for me, I look at it as, that's not my goal. My goal is to create this content, whatever way it will be, release it out into the universe. And if people listen to it, great. If people don't, great. I have to approach it that way, because when you start setting these huge expectations, and you start creating all these different things and all that stuff, it gets in the way of the creativity that you're trying to do. So instead of focusing on how this is going to work, and how you're going to put this together, and how you're going to do all of this, and how's it going to sound, and it may not be right, but it's okay. I'm still talking. I'm still getting my message across. You're more focused on, well, I have to make sure I have 20,000 listeners, and 16,000 viewers, and all these crazy numbers. And that's not where my mindset is. My mindset is to create a space for myself give myself a voice. And when I have guests that are going to be on as well, they will have that chance to, I'm giving them a voice so they can talk to me about anything that they feel is necessary for me to know or anyone else. So the Brew Podcast itself is about creating a space for everyday people and everyday stories. And that in itself is a huge deal because I think now in the world that we are today, we really need a lot of listeners. And I think we're missing that. We're missing that there's not enough listeners. There's a lot of people just talking, and there's not enough listeners. And I just wanted to create just a tiny space. It's not anything out of this world. It's not anything that, it's anything big or anything like that. But just creating my own little space to be able to put a voice to give a voice to myself and give a voice to others who want to participate. I may not always have guests. I may not always have that. But it's the idea that the space is there to be able to create that connection between myself and that person. So this is where this came from. And it's really important to me because we're in a time right now where people want to talk, they want to open up, but they won't open up if they don't feel comfortable with the person that's across from them to do it, like I said earlier. And one of my biggest inspirations behind this, now I know sometimes when you're like, when you do podcasting and you're part of that world, you're always like, I have, this podcaster is my inspiration. This pod, this podcaster, I look up to them or whatever it is. People may do that. But with me, it wasn't a podcaster. It was someone who was very, just had the knack to, people chose that person to be able to interview them. And she is an inspiration to me because I've always followed her and thought that she was just amazing in everything that she did, and the way how she interviewed people was just amazing. And I always looked up to her because the idea that what a gift it is that someone says, I want you to interview me, I want you to talk to me, and you're the only one that I want to talk to about whatever current event that's going on or with themselves or anything like that. And it was Barbara Walters. She was amazing. And I always looked up to her because she had such a way of connecting with people and asking questions to people and getting them to open up to her. And I know that that's different, obviously. I know where I stand here in my own little, you know, square world here. But when I look at her and how she interviews people, and then I look at myself and say to myself, wow, like I am that type of person where I want people to open up to me and talk to me. And I've always had that knack. I've always had that, even like I said earlier, I always had that knack where someone can talk to me about something and open up to me. And that in itself is a big deal. Not everybody can do that, and it takes a special person. It takes a special type of skill that you develop to do that. And for me, I look back on where I was as a child, as a kid, and how I struggled with that. And then I look at myself now, and I'm really impressed on how far I've come. And this also is helping me to be able to find my voice, to be able to, just be part of the narrative. So the Brew podcast was created with that in mind, that it's creating a space for everyday people, everyday stories. People can open up about different things. And when I don't have a guest on, I may have, friends come on and we talk and we just have a great time and just touch on different topics and, just laugh and have a good time. And, because I really wanted to be fun. And I just, really want it to be just laid back and just yada, 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 that sort of thing. I don't want it to be super, super serious. I don't want it to be super sad. But I also want to make sure that the space is available for anyone who wants to talk about their lives. And when I say talk about their lives, I mean anything. Sometimes people may want to talk about their upbringing and how it was tough for them and how they got out of it, or their journey through education and how they got where they were and where they are today, and how that inspired them, and just a slew of other topics. There's no I'm not putting things in a box and just leaving it there. Like, it's very open to that. And that's where I felt like my voice would be great for that. This podcast is being recorded in my living room. There's my cat. I live in a one-bedroom apartment. I don't have an extra room to be able to do all the fun stuff and all that stuff. So my living room will do for now. This is Aria, by the way. And, she actually came on time because I was going to say I have three cats and a dog. So this is Aria. And if you hear, because I know I'm recording, if you hear the microphone, it's her. So her name is Arya. I have two other cats. One of their names is Ada. The other one's Ava, and my dog is Timmy, who usually just likes to sleep. He does have bronchitis, so maybe every once in a while you may hear coughing in the background, but he's being treated for it and he's managed. But they will be joining me on my podcast, and they'll be part of the conversation as well. So yeah, and that's just kind of who I am. I was born in Brooklyn, New York. My father's Puerto Rican, so I, was born in New York, and then I, now live in New Jersey. I'm married, so I am, with my husband, and yeah, that's kind of that's kind of everything about me. I'm kind of a little bit boring, if I say so myself. Uh, but I'm kind of fun at the same time. So there's that. It's a good mix. So Aria, what do you think about all of this? She's in her own world. Anyway, that's it. And this is just a sample of what's to come. I just wanted to make an introduction of who I am and what I'm about and what the podcast is going to be about. And I'm going to be recording my first episode, the first official episode, coming in November. I don't know when that is exactly, but I am looking forward to that. I have written the first episode on what topic I'm going to touch on, what it's going to be about, and then just fill everything in. And it's funny because throughout all of this, it's just amazing. Like, it's just, I am the director, I'm the writer, I'm the producer, I'm the creator. I'm the sound guy, I'm the video guy. It's funny, and I think about that and I was like, wow, like, because usually, obviously celebrities and things like that have their podcasts, they have other people doing this, and I'm just the one that's like writing the material, recording, videoing. I'm doing this all. I'm a one person show here, so and hopefully, maybe a time comes, maybe people can help me. Maybe they can give me some tips and tricks, and about sound and light and all that stuff. But for right now, it's just me, a dim lamp in my living room, making content. So there's that. I'm happy with it though. Well, anyway, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for listening to me. I'm excited to be part of this, and who knows what happens with it. You can't really put everything in a box and just make magic all the time. But for now, it works, it's fine. And I just want to say thank you so much for all the support. And actually, when I had posted this on my social media, and I said, I feel like I can do a podcast with the people that know me. What do you think? And it was overwhelming, the messages that I had received, of everyone just being supportive, everyone saying that they think I would do great. And And that itself fueled me because these are people that know me, that have worked with me, that are my family, that are my close friends, family. So I trust their judgment more than someone who I just met the other day and is just telling me, giving me advice about something. But, other than that, we'll see what happens. The future the future is just, an endless road, right? So anyway, I want to say thank you so much. Have a great day, and I'll see you at the next one.